What do you make of Brian Flores'
Well, a couple
lawsuit?
of things. I applaud him for bringing attention to the issue and potentially ruining his career as an NFL coach. See, we talked about Colin Kaepernick making the sacrifice. This is a sacrifice, okay? Colin Kaepernick, listen, God bless him. He was an individual that could play, got the San Francisco 49ers to the Super Bowl. We know what he brought to the table, and we know ultimately what he ended up sacrificing. But he was taking the position, and he was still playing, and then they got wind of it, and it became, just dominated the news airlines, news airwaves rather, and things of that nature in the headlines, and things just regressed from there. In the case of Brian Flores, you're interviewing for the New Orleans Saints job. You are interviewing for the Houston Texans job. You're considered a finalist for both of those jobs. But yet, because of what happened to you with the Giants and what happened to you allegedly when you were talking to Stephen Ross, the owner of the Miami Dolphins, and he is talking to you about throwing games and he'll pay you $100,000 per loss if you lost on purpose. And he's bringing up John Elway and his GM and how they came to a meeting disheveled and an hour late, looking a bit inebriated and what have you. And you highlight the situations that black coaches in the National Football League have had to endure. For him to step up at this moment in time in his career when everybody knows he didn't deserve to be fired from Miami, it didn't appear to make any sense whatsoever. He did a damn good job with them over the last 2 years. It just seemed to be just something that was incredibly courageous on his part. For me, I want to know more details, but I will say this. In 100 years, the Giants have never hired a black coach. That's incredibly incriminating. And I'm somebody that'll never root for them because of that. And I'm a native New Yorker. You look at Stephen Ross with his RISE organization and his philanthropy when it comes to black causes and the millions upon millions of dollars he's dedicated. I would tell you I have a totally different imagery of him now than I did prior to this class action lawsuit that's being thrown at him. Because when you go up to a black coach in his first time in this position, and you tell him you want him to lose on purpose, and you offer to pay him to lose. I'm sorry, Rich Eisen. If it's found that that is true, this is the NFL's version of Donald Sterling. He's got to go. You can't have an owner that literally is offering a coach money to lose games on purpose. That is incredibly damaging to the integrity of the league. I want to emphasize if it is proven to be true. These are allegations we do not know, but it's proven to be true. And then again, as a black man, I'm a little bit different than a lot of folks from this perspective. Racism exists, but I know, and I've always told white America this, there's a difference between systemic racism and pointing at an individual and saying you're racist. I happen to believe there's plenty of white folks that I know that are not racist. I don't believe it. I see them. They're God-fearing people who work hard just like everybody else. Okay? But when you're talking about the system, that's where African Americans all over this country have a case, because we continue to see evidence upon evidence upon evidence where no matter what is told to us, we're judged by a different standard. We're treated differently. And it's almost never equally. And the fact that in the year 2022, we have one African-American head coach, 19 years after the Rooney Rule was instituted in 2003, in which we had 3 black coaches, we've actually taken a step backwards. How can anybody excuse that? It's just that simple.
So then that's my follow-up is, what is your expectation level of the change that could come out of this?
I think that Brian Flores bringing this case is going to bring into question the anti-exempt laws that the NFL has had in its favor. I think it's going to bring attention to the fact that you don't have any black ownership within the National Football League, any black majority ownership, because everybody ain't Jerry Jones and Robert Kraft. Everybody doesn't, own their team lock, stock, and barrel. And, most NFL teams, you have a multitude of partners. Why can't you have a multitude of black partners? Why can't one of those black individuals have a majority stake in the franchise? There's a lot of money out here. There's black folks with money, and you could find that. you haven't let people into your club. I think ultimately that's going to change. And I think once that changes, I think we will go a long way towards making progress. We've got billionaire owners, billionaires in case you don't know, billionaires don't like to be told what to do. They're usually telling people what to do, okay? But in this particular instance, when you hurt their pockets, which is potentially the case, they will make change. Keep in mind, when the whole Colin Kaepernick situation was going around, the owners, and I always bring this up, every owner pocketed one year $246 million. You know this from the television deal. Mm-hmm. And they still complained because Colin Kaepernick cost them anywhere from 15 to 20% of the money that they could have gotten, according to numerous reports. So if they were complaining back then, imagine the kind of damage this could do to them, particularly if NFL players stand up and make some noise. Especially if NBA players join in. Think about Muhammad Ali. Think about what he went through. But think about who was standing behind him. Jim Brown, NFL. Bill Russell, NBA. Lou Alcindor, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, NBA. Kurt Flood and these guys, Major League Baseball. It wasn't just guys from the world of boxing. There were black athletes from all over the place who stood up. Imagine if that happened now. And it's entirely possible. With the advent of social media, with the reach these dudes have, with the fearlessness that they put on display time and time again, and with the brotherhood they have with each other, just to bring attention to the lack of equality that's taking place in the National Football League, do not rule out the possibility that some serious noise could be made to provoke change. If you wanted to do it with social justice issues, as I said on numerous occasions, George Floyd was a metaphor. And you saw the cop with his knee on his neck. I was saying black folks have felt for a long time as if we've had that proverbial knee on our necks for a long, long time. And we're tired of it. And this is an opportunity, if you're professional athletes, if you stood with arms locked to in unison with one another to fight a good fight, this is right in your wheelhouse. This is a sports issue. It's more than that, but it's definitely a sports issue. So the people out there in the political world or what have you that says just play sports or whatever, you can't say that now because this has everything to do with sports. And the athletes, I think, can stand up. And if they choose to stand up and make some noise, NFL owners are going to have major, major problems.
Well, I mean, they could also, a team could also hire Brian Flores.
That's right.
Because he's an outstanding coach who's proven what he can do in the league already.
Well, you're right.
And, and also, we talk all the time about a coach being, needing to be a leader and also stand for something and be somebody who has a philosophy. I mean, we pretty much have seen this guy's willing to stand for something.
My only retort to that would be this, Rich. Just because he gets hired as a coach doesn't mean the lawsuit goes away. Mm-hmm. He doesn't, if you watched him on his interviews this morning, he doesn't seem like an individual who is going away. It's almost like the NFL messed with the wrong dude. He's walking into this situation assuming it's going to cost him. He could have waited to see whether he's going to get the New Orleans or the Houston Texans job.
Right.
He didn't do it. He said, bump that. I'm sick of this. And not only am I sick of this, I'm sick of this on behalf of a multitude of my brothers within this industry that are experiencing this. And as a result, he asked for a class action lawsuit. So you're talking about him inviting others to join with him to bring attention to this. So you've got all of that working against you if you are the owners. And I emphasize the owners because where I disagree with some people, it's hard. I understand that the NFL had to be mentioned in the lawsuit. I get that because obviously they implemented the Rooney Rule, and because people are circumventing the Rooney Rule, you have to mention the NFL, okay? And you know they're not going to get through a summary judgment. You're going to have to go and address this. You're not going to be able to shove this aside. I get all of that, but I also look at the diversity within the National Football League office. I also look at an executive vice president like Troy Vincent who has spoken out about the actions of the owners. And I think that the NFL league office could easily separate itself from the actions of the owners. Yes. The only mistake I think they made was when they said the NFL and our clubs in their statement. They should have said the NFL. They should have never mentioned those other words, and our club. Oh, no. You ain't got anything to do with the Miami Dolphins, the New York Giants, the Denver Broncos. In other words, I'd have threw them out the pasture just by not mentioning them. We, the league office, we think this lawsuit is meritless as it pertains to us. Now, I know they can't because they answer to the owners, so I know I'm being facetious. But I'm just saying it would have been if they had been able to do something like that. It would have been beautiful because that's exactly what should have happened.
Especially since Troy Vincent was quoted in the lawsuit.
That's right. That's right.
I mean, he's in the lawsuit.
Yeah.
I mean, so
he was quoted publicly in the Washington Post. Plus, he came on Stephen A's World on ESPN Plus and basically reiterated his comments about the things that need to be done by these owners. But he also emphasized how the effort, there's no shortchanging the effort that the NFL itself has put forth in trying to address this issue. And that is why I don't condemn Roger Goodell. I don't condemn Troy Vincent. I don't condemn anybody with the league office. I'm looking at individual billionaire owners that are sitting there probably saying, excuse me, Roger Goodell, you work for us. You like the salary you making? That's because we pay it to you. Shut the hell up and do what you're told. That's their attitude towards the commissioner and the league office. I think you have a plethora of owners within the National Football League that feel that way. And that is what Roger Goodell is battling. So I support Roger Goodell in the NFL more than most. They're not perfect. And there's some things that I definitely disagree with. But by and large, I do think their efforts have been there as it pertains to this issue.
Hey, you watched all the way to the end. Thanks for that. Watch more right here.